In this presentation, we're going to discuss one of the most important research design elements, which is research strategy. So research strategy is the fourth layer of Saunders' research onion. So as the fourth layer, it connects the outer layer, research philosophies and methodological choices, to the very inner circle of the onion, which is the core in terms of data analysis and collection methods. So really, research strategy and the role is kind of a connection from the outer layer to the very inner layer. Therefore, it is one of the most important part of the research design. So what is a research strategy? So the concept of strategy is very similar with the concept of design, isn't it? It's the plan of action to achieve a goal. In the context of research, so it is the plan how you're going to execute it and the tools or the strategies you're going to undertake in order to answer your research question and achieve the overall goal and the final aim of your research project. And as we explained, it is the methodological link between your philosophy and the subsequent choice of methods that you are going to adapt to collect and analyze your research data. So the role of research strategy is vital. So it's connect your methodological link. It is a methodological link which connects your research philosophy and the subsequent methods you're going to adapt, specific tools you're going to use for you to collect the data and analyze the data. And again, the alignment and the coherence is very, very important in this stage. According to Saunders et al. And others, there are 8 main research strategies, so including experiment, survey, archival and documentary research, case study, ethnography, action research, grounded theory, and narrative inquiry. So we're going to explain them to you one by one in the next few slides. So the first research strategy, experiment. And it is quite easy to understand experiment, isn't it? But it is not the experiment in a science context. So in a business management context, the experiment is where research that studies causal links that in a controlled context that normally used in exploratory or explanatory research and answers why and how. So it is normally linked to quantitative research. I think there's a typical experiment that can be used or you may be able to link with is the example we give you about shelf display point of sale. Yeah, so in a retail supermarket. So for example, in a particular supermarket, you may want to change the different products at the shelf display point of sale, okay, and just to say whether there's any difference between the volume of the sales, and then that is an experiment. So within a controlled context, yeah, you can control how long it is going to be there, and in whichever supermarket, and then in order to say whether there's any changes compared to where this product's not placed in the shelf display point of sale. Okay. The second research strategy is survey. So you may be very familiar with survey because it is one of the most commonly used research strategy for business and management research. And obviously it can be used to answer, all kind of W and H sort of research questions. So the main data collection techniques or method is questionnaires or online surveys, but they are not limited to questionnaires. So you may have heard of a structured observation or structured interviews. Structured interviews is really a verbal questionnaire where you probably read it out, but very well structured, like a questionnaire with specific answers in a specific order and mostly closed questions. So it is typically associated with deductive approach where you probably read some literature and then you come up with hypotheses and then you are going to collect the data to test the hypothesis. And it is usually linked to quantitative research. Yeah, and then as a student, you may come across with all sorts of different surveys, and then the very typical one would be your module feedback survey, mid-module feedback or the end module feedback survey. You will be sent via your the module site or to your email. And another survey you may come across is postgraduate teaching experience survey in the next year. So there are all sorts of surveys, and then you may, as we said, you may not be very unfamiliar with, so which might be the most common one you have done since, you know, not only necessarily in the academia life, but in other contexts as well. So survey is the most commonly used strategy in business and management research. So archival and documentary research is where the research involves with secondary data, and then you're dealing with collection and analyzing the secondary data, which involves could be some documents related in the organizational database, or memos or reports, or newsletters and all sorts. And it could be non-text related documents as well, could be the Medium accounts or video recordings or images or photographs. And then could be survey related data as well. So not the survey that you are going to collect yourself, but the survey findings that has already been made available in the public domain. For example, the censuses, government censuses, and in terms of the population, in terms of the employment, and also in terms of the government family spending, labor market, and also could be ad hoc surveys where the government survey on COVID-19, for example. So, and also could be other sources, in a snapshot or longitudinal forms, for example, that the data compiled in Financial Times country report or particular, big data sets. Or could be the data compiled in a particular industry, or government publications, or in European Union, for example. So these are the research involved in the collection of the data that is already in the public domain and that is already available, so the researcher or you would not have to conduct any primary research, so which we refer to this as secondary research. The fourth research strategy is case study. So case study is an in-depth inquiry into a particular topic or social phenomenon within real life setting, so within a case. Okay, so the case does not necessarily to be a particular organization. It can be an individual, a manager, where you're looking into a particular leadership style, for example, or a group. It could be looking into a group work, within a particular team, or could be an organization, a company, or a business, or an SME, or an international organization. So it could be an organization, or could be looking into a case as a changing process, for example, looking at a supply chain from the supplier to the consumer, for example. Or it could be an event where you're looking into organizational changes, as we said before. All right, and obviously case study is within a particular setting or context. It's very contextualized, and it is very good for your rich understanding and dig into a little bit more what happens in an organization and how it happens. So if you refer back to what we mentioned in the first couple of weeks, the example of organization's newsletter and how effective that is to gain employees' identification in a geographically diverse organizations. So where the title could be in colon, a case study of X or YZ company. So where you look into this company or go into this company and then find out or speak to the employee, or or design a questionnaire with the employee and then to find out whether it is effective or not. Okay, so obviously with a case study, it can be quantitative or can be qualitative, as I indicated, or could be a mixed methods. So the fifth research strategy referred is ethnography. Ethnography is very rarely used in business and management research, especially for postgraduate students, because ethnography refers to a written account of a person or ethnicity group. So usually it's used to study of the cultural, social world of a particular group, for example, a tribe, or a minority ethnicity groups. So the purpose is to describe, explain the social world of research subjects inhabit. in the way, how they live and, the kind of social interactions in that particular social group. So you're describing, explaining a particular phenomenon of that. And as you can, as it entails, it would be very time consuming and involves very high level of commitment. So a lot of the time the researcher would be an active participant, or live with this particular group of people and experience that, and while observing or interviewing with the particular group of people. So it requires time and commitment, and obviously the research skills and expertise in it as well. So it's very principally or exclusively linked to qualitative research, but don't worry about it for the purpose of postgraduate research, because it's not very commonly used at postgraduate level. The sixth research strategy, which can be similar to ethnography but very different from ethnography in terms of the time involved or the impact to the researcher itself. So action research is an emergent and iterative process of inquiry that designs develop solutions to real organizational problems, or very likely to be related to the researcher him or herself, through a participative and collaborative approach. So participative refers to the researcher is part of the research, and the collaborative involves the teamwork or the involvement of the organization the researcher is involved. It normally has very strong implications for the participants or for the researcher itself and the organization, and obviously the purpose to improve the researchers normally or the organization's practice. And then a lot of the time the researcher is an insider or could be participant in the implementation of changes, and it's a very typical qualitative research design as well. So for students, students are likely to be doing action research for business and management, because a lot of our students are going on placement. So when you go on placement, you may find there are various of issues that you have come across in the process of your research or within the organization. So for example, you may find high employee turnover issues, or the training and development, or the effectiveness of training development events in the company, or could be the whole research recruitment process of the company that you're involved as part of your job. So it's very likely while you're working as an employee and you're an insider there, so you may want to research into these issues, so where you can regard your research as an action research. So the seventh research strategy is known as grounded theory. So as the term indicates, so it is a theory building strategy and would be very helpful research to predict and explain behaviors or particular social phenomenon by developing and building a theory. And it is a very typical, inductive research and where you probably start with collecting data and try to develop a theoretical concept out of your research. Yes, as it says here, it can be used to develop theoretical explanation of social interactions and process in a wide range of research management issues. So normally you start with very inductive, you start with very qualitative and interpretivist approach to the research inquiry, and then you generate theories and concepts, so which lead to build the theory, so which leads to the theory that is grounded in your research. Yeah, so it's very typical qualitative research as well. The eighth research strategy is known as narrative inquiry. Narrative inquiry is where a research probably involves a storytelling, because narrative is literally a story. Yeah, it could be a personal account which interprets an event or a sequence of events. So if you do your research using narrative inquiry strategy, that means your research probably involves a process of gathering information and then through storytelling. Yeah, so storytelling could be, through interview, through your conversation with somebody, or could be from the field notes. So where, as we said, and where you probably engaged within a particular institution or social circumstances, or it could be letter exchanges through a period of time, or it could be just simply an autobiography. you analyze that and then try to make meaning out of it. Okay, and it normally preserves chronological connections. So normally, so looking into when it starts and what happens and how it ended, and the sequencing events. So as told by the narrator. So to understand the particular phenomenon, yeah, and then to extract meaning out of it. So you're not simply looking into the personal story of somebody, but most importantly, how this personal story may impact on the particular social phenomenon you're looking at, particularly in business and management context. Yeah, so it's a very typical qualitative research design. So a very commonly used example in narrative inquiries, people look into the success of Apple company. Yeah, so look into the inside story of Steve Jobs, for example. So you're not looking into Steve Jobs and who he is and how many children and what is his family life, but most importantly, probably through the story of himself, you look into how his probably leadership styles and impact on the success of organization. So you want to extract meaning out of it and for the purpose of your research. Okay, so again, all these strategies are vital for you to understand as part of your overall research design, the plan, how you want to execute your research, especially with reference to how you want to collect data for your research and how to analyze data for your research. Because as we said, research strategy, and as the Anya indicated, is really the connection between the philosophical aspect to the core, the specific techniques and tools you are going to use to conduct your research. And therefore, accurate understanding or explanation or justification of your strategies would contribute to the credibility of your research. Yes, if you don't have the right strategy for your research, the reliability or validity of your research may not be there. So therefore, I hope you can take some time to read through the core textbook and to understand the specific strategies, and so you can apply particular strategies to your own research project. Yeah. So the last element in relation to the research design is time horizon, which is going to discuss separately. So finally, this presentation just gives you an overview of the 8 research strategies, and there's a lot of more content examples that is available in the core textbook. So please do engage in the weekly reading as we recommended, and in particular with the Saunders core textbook, and listen to the recorded lectures or look at these slides, and hopefully that helps you to understand. And then prepare the case studies which may be related to the this week's concept as well. And then most importantly, work on your own research project. Okay, think about which strategy or which strategies your research might apply or might adopt, so to contribute to your research proposal later on. Okay, again, I can't highlight enough, you are adult, you are independent researcher, and you have to do your research yourself. Nobody is going to do it for you or tell you what strategy your research is, and you have to figure out by yourself. Okay, utilize the support whenever necessary, and then we have a full team of people there to support you. Thank you. All the best.